Welcome to the Quick Stop F1 podcast. My name is Nyasha, and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. Joining me today is someone who I definitely am talking to for the first time. Oh my God. No diggity, no doubt. She is the senior editor at Jalopnik, who we love. She's an author. She's an incredible journalist. Great content creator. You have a beautiful cat as well, I must say. Like, facts only. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth Blackstock. Yay!
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, it's so lovely to meet you for the first time, and this is definitely not the second time we're having to do this, right?
No, this is the first time. Yeah, we got this.
We got this. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I thought it'd be really good to get you on the show. There's so much to talk about with the Miami Grand Prix coming up, and we're going to delve into that in a second. But with everyone that we get on the show, we always ask them how they got into F1. And as someone who makes a career talking about cars and motorsport and such, I guess it'd be really cool to hear, how did you get into the sport of F1 itself? And yeah, what's the story with that?
All right. So I grew up in Michigan. So I grew up in a huge car culture area. My whole family worked in the automotive industry, mostly everyone for GM. So I was around cars. We watched NASCAR a lot. So racing was always kind of there as part of my childhood, and cars were always there. And then I got, kind of grew out of it a little bit as I got older. But as I started to get into high school, I was like, the 60s and 70s are kind of my jam. I love the music from that era. I love the cars from that era. Love Chris Hemsworth because I was a big Marvel movie fan, big Thor fan. So the movie Rush came out, ticked all my boxes of all of my interests at that time. So my dad took us to go see that while I was in high school. And I got home from that movie a changed woman. I had to know everything about the era. I was like, there's no way this story is real. When I did the research, I was like, no, actually, the real story is even crazier than anything they showed in the movie, which is so funny. And I just was like, I need to research everything. I need to watch my first race live, which I believe was Korea 2013. Just like fully into it. Moved to Austin, Texas for college, in part because there's a racetrack there, and went to my first race in 2014, after which point I just got the bug, went all over the world to follow racing. And I started to kind of write about my experiences, especially being a woman at the track. You get a lot of like weird folks sometimes. So I wrote about that for my own personal website, and it got a lot of traction, got picked up by Jalopnik. So that was my first time on the site. And after that, they reached out and were like, hey, we need someone to write on Saturdays. Do you want to be our Saturday writer? So I got my foot in the door on Saturdays, moved on to be a full-time employee, went from staff writer to breaking news editor to senior editor, and here I am today.
Look, that deserves another round of applause. I'll give you the clapping one. That clapping sounds sarcastic, but it's not sarcastic. That is actually some genuine clapping and some genuine applause. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think like it's really cool to hear how different people get into the sport and how we all kind of converge on this one particular place. And I remember in one of the conversations that we definitely didn't have prior to today, but you in kind of getting back, with F1 and your interest in F1, obviously COTA is Circuit of the Americas. Austin is a massive race on the calendar, and obviously for a long time it's been a massive race for Americans. And I guess for you, like personally, like what's your relationship with Circuit of the Americas, with Austin?
Well, it's a deep one. COTA was my first race, the U.S. Grand Prix in 2014. First race I've ever gone to ever. So like it always has a special place in my heart because that was the place where I saw cars on a track for the first time. And it completely blew my mind.
Yeah.
After that weekend, I sat down with one of my friends and I thought I was like going to get the bug out. You know, I was just going to go to a race and then I could move on with my life. No, we sat down at the end of that weekend and we were like, all right, so we're going to Europe next year and we're going to go to Austria and we're going to go to Silverstone, right? So off we went the next year. I've been to that race just about every year since then. I didn't go, I think in 2019 because I missed my flight. I was living in Philadelphia at the time for grad school. Yeah. Oh my God. It was such a downer. But every other year since then, I've been there, been hanging out. And it was just nuts to kind of like, to go from being one of like a handful of people there on race day to walking out of the media center in 2021 after racing resumed after COVID and seeing the hill on Friday covered with more people than I had seen on race day that first year that I went. It was just it's mind blowing. Like I feel like I've watched that circuit kind of grow up. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that, I guess we all know that is the DTS effect that has happened in America. And it's crazy, right? Like having that growth, but it's you know, even on this side of the pond, you know, my friends who would never have touched F1 with a barge pole, like, you know, out of choice, now they're the ones talking to me like, oh, like, you know, talk to me about certain drivers, and like they've got like a general, this kind of like surface level interest at least in F1, let alone the growth of fans going to races all over the world, the whole fashion side of it. You know, I'm seeing people in Ferrari jackets every 2 seconds, or old school Mercedes jackets, and the whole motor core thing is in fashion again. It's crazy, and it must be, I guess in America it must, like I say, you know, it must be what it feels like is that, you know, just an interest in motorsports in general seems to have really, I guess, I don't want to say a trickle-down effect, but that kind of thing of people discovering F1, but then maybe from there going on to discover IndyCar and NASCAR from there as well. Because that's something I've done, and I guess is that something that a lot of other people have done as well.
I was going to say, I was at MotoGP at Circuit of the Americas a couple weeks ago, and I talked to a lot of people. It was about 50-50 of like the people who were there because they were big MotoGP fans. We get a lot of fans coming from Mexico, so they've kind of always been really into MotoGP. And then the other half were just like people who got into racing recently because of Drive to Survive or something similar and just wanted to see, like, go to a race and go to a racetrack and see vehicles on a circuit competing with each other, you know, just any of them, so it's been fun to see, especially here in America. Like when Baku was 6 a.m. my time, it was a garbage time to wake up to watch that garbage race. So you know, we're kind of discovering like IndyCar and NASCAR are on at a little bit better times for us here in the States. 2 p.m. is a lot easier to digest than 6 a.m. some days. So people are kind of looking at those as options as well. And it's seen like everywhere has seen a big increase in interest, which is, it's really cool. Like I'm a big IndyCar fan. So to see IndyCar kind of being part of, you know, swept up with F1's rising tide has been wonderful.
No, look, I watched my first proper IndyCar race, the one just gone. I watched it I recorded it, and I watched it after, I think I watched it a couple of days ago, like from start to finish, and I was like, this is great racing. Like, you've got a battle for the lead that's going on the whole race. You've got things going further down the field. You've got strategy, which is actually offset strategy. I learned about push to pass, and I'm like, wow, this feels better than DRS. I just feel like it's just this incredible thing that I will fully I think start to get into, and I think because
to the club.
Yes. Yeah, no, please. I'm going to need more tutelage, so I'll probably be like belling you off all the time. But I just like, I think it's one of the, I know. Well, you be careful what you wish for. So it's one of those things where I think a lot of people you get into F1 because, obviously for whatever reasons you get into F1, and F1 is great, but for me, at my core, I love racing. That was my whole thing. I loved the racing. I loved the strategy side of it. And I guess when that's missing, then you're kind of like, what am I here for? Especially if you're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? Like
exactly. I'm waking up at 6 in the morning to like watch them race around a rule book.
Right, not great. But look, people who don't have to get up at 6 in the morning are people, well, in America, because Miami is in America and it's coming up now, and it feels like, well, it doesn't feel like well, from the outside looking in, it looks like the sheen has come off of the fancy Miami race that F1 are trying to push on us. Stefano Domenicali said he wanted 23 Monaco Grand Prix. Miami was the shining light of, not shining light, but it was the crown jewel of new races that we had last season. Kind of meant to usher in this new generation of F1 where it's a party all weekend and, you've got glamour, you've got this and that. But you recently wrote a really cool article on Jalopnik where you spoke to 3 fans, 2 of them going to their first race last year in Miami and one who'd gone to several races before and he was going to Miami. And the consensus felt like, past the commercialization of F1 and them catering to the commercial side of things, as a fan experience, it looked like Miami was quite low down in terms of the satisfaction that it gave to the paying customers. And obviously you were there as well. So I guess, what did you learn about Miami from your experience? And I guess, how much did your personal experience tally up with what you spoke to the people who gave you their time in your story?
Yeah, I had a much different experience, I think, than a lot of those people, just because I was there as media and I was there on a press trip with Red Bull. So Red Bull had invited me out and kind of given me the access and whatnot. Which was great because I otherwise would not have been able to afford going. And I initially had just wanted to go as a fan to be part of, the fan aspect of it, because at the end of the day, yes, I'm a journalist, but I just wanted to kind of be there for that first, big new event in America. But it was outside my price range. And I think that was something that I quickly realized as I spoke to everyone else, where the people who went, one of them got free tickets, so she and her stepdad went, but it was they're not going to go back because they don't want to have to pay the money. Other people had spent, thousands and thousands of dollars. The race tickets themselves were $1,500 plus. Then you've got lodging, hotels, air travel, a rental car, all of these things that are going on, and they're just dumping money into 3 days of race car, which is a lot. It's a lot. A lot of people, I think, they were just very displeased with what they were getting for what they were paying for. It'd be like if you went to McDonald's and suddenly it's like $100 meal for you to have a burger. It wasn't a great experience. I walked the track. I always do when I go to a new circuit to see what is there, what the fans are seeing. Everything was expensive. There was not really any shade. The porta potty areas, God bless, were covered, so you at least didn't have to walk into a baking stall to use the bathroom. Right. But water was still pretty hard to come by. The fans who paid $500 for general admission basically just were standing by a fence and seeing a little bit of a track. It just overall, I think people were displeased with the fact that this was built up so much, and it was supposed to kind of be this big landmark event, and I'm sure it was for the VIPs who went, but it definitely wasn't for just the people in the grandstands or the people at the track just to be a fan.
Look, let me tell you, from the outside looking in, it looked a hot mess, pun intended. I mean, from the moment, like, everything's just like marketed so lazily. So, you know, we've got from the whole Miami Vice thing, and like, it's just like, oh my God, who is doing this marketing? It's clearly like towards a bit of an older audience or whatever, but I think I said before, like, it's almost like it came out really like camp, but I don't think like, and not, do you know what I mean? Like, but not deliberately camp. Like, it was supposed to be this high-end, glitzy glamour, and then it's just, you know, it's the babe on the side in a mermaid outfit, whilst like 40 plus men just kind of stare at her with their guts out. And then you've got, you know, the fake marina. You've got just like, honestly, like, I just, all of it looked, like I said, like in RuPaul's Drag Race, when they have the sewing challenge, and then the girls go there and they use the hot glue instead of the fucking sewing machine, and it's just like, this is not high end, this is not couture, darling. Like, I like, honestly. Yeah, I mean, that's what it felt like from the outside looking in, and I mean, do you think that with, look, they're slashing ticket prices, I think up to 40% off, but 40% off is still getting you a ticket for like 1,500. I think is
still
the
a lot
of
of money.
average price ticket I'm seeing. So $1,500. It's a lot of money. That's not your hotel. That's not your flights. That's not the food there. That's not your travel there to the circuit. I can't, like you say, you're looking at spending at least, on top of that, another $2 or $3 grand in the list. So, do you think, having said that, all we said about Miami, do you think that the arrival of Vegas has hurt the Miami Grand Prix, I guess, coupled with the experience that people had? Do you think the arrival of Vegas, new race in Vegas, has had people thinking, well, you know, I can either spend this much money going to Miami, or I can just pay and go to Vegas, or is it, I guess, or is this just like a bit of fatigue with F1? Maybe have we seen the peak of F1 in America? No, I'll go that. I'm not sure. What
it's really weird. I think Formula One historically has just not understood America in the slightest. They look at us like a totally different species. You know, it just seems like a lot of times F1's not doing research and trying to figure out what's going on here. And I think like a great case in point is 1984. They had a Grand Prix in Dallas in July. Texas is too hot in July to be having any kind of race car events. Certainly not out at a fairgrounds. You know, like these things. A similar thing with Miami, where it's like this race takes place in a parking lot that they did give a great makeover to, but at the end of the day, we're still in a parking lot. And all of this energy has been channeled now into Vegas of terms of like, what can we do to attract a huge American audience? Miami is just the same. Like, they didn't really do a ton to make Miami a more interesting or viable prospect for fans. All of that now is channeled into Las Vegas. So now if you've got fans who are going to be shelling out thousands of dollars, which would you rather go to? The race in the parking lot or the brand new Las Vegas Grand Prix where they're racing down the strip? Like, I know what one I want to pick. I absolutely would rather go to Vegas. Certainly not to Miami. And I think we're seeing the turning off of a lot of just like the casual fans, the people who watch Drive to Survive and watch some races live and we're like, oh, this is super cool. I want to get into this. I want to physically be at one of these races.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big investment, you know? Like, a lot of people out there don't have the ability to just dump $10,000 on a weekend that they've, you know, to go watch race car. You can absolutely, if you would like to, you can go to Montreal for a lot cheaper. You can go to Mexico City for a lot you can go overseas. I didn't spend anywhere near thousands of dollars when I went to Austria. Admittedly, like, I was in the campground, but it still, like, it wasn't It wasn't this big financial expenditure. I was able to go when I was 19. Like, I could afford to make that trip. And people just like, we can't do that in the States. I can't do that in the States as a journalist. Like, I'm looking at Las Vegas. I'm intending to go to cover it. I can't afford to get there. I can't afford to stay there. And that's a problem that I think a lot of fans are realizing, like, oh, I want to be at these things, but I just don't, like, how do you get there? And I think one of the things that really brought that home to me last year in Miami when I went was the official F1 events that the series was hosting were scattered around Southern Florida. So I was like, okay, I have to be at the track to do an interview on Thursday at noon, but I have to go to Fort Lauderdale afterward. Fort Lauderdale is a drive. Like, that's not just right next to Miami Gardens. And then it was like, well, I have to be then for a dinner at 8 p.m. So I have to drive all the way back down now to South Beach. And it was like, you know, I had a press car, which was nice. I had a Corvette. So I wasn't really like, I wasn't complaining. I got to spend more time in a nice car. But I know a lot of people who spent like thousands of dollars on Ubers just because they were trying to get to the things that F1 had scheduled. Because F1 didn't know, like, you can't go 20 miles quickly in a city. You just can't do that here. No, but that's the thing, right? And that's another thing where it's like, you know, they market it as like Miami, but it's not. It's not Miami, like, do you know what I mean? And it's not Miami, like, and the same way, like, you know, this fucking people come for Silverstone and they're shocked that it's like fucking, it's nowhere near London. Like, don't expect to be able to like pop into London from Silverstone. Like, it's not possible. So I do, and this is the thing. It's like, do I go to Miami, but it's not in Miami, and it's super expensive, or at least with Vegas, like, I know exactly what I'm going to get from Vegas. I know what's in Vegas. Vegas is very easy to get around if I'm just staying on the strip or whatever. So let me spend a couple $100 more or whatever, a few $100, and just go to Vegas. And I think F1 has absolutely fumbled it. Like, they had fans eating out of their hands. They had this young, enthusiastic, passionate audience who wanted to be involved, and instead of cultivating that audience and getting them on side and getting repeat customers until the end of time, they've fleeced them. And look, Miami's not the only race that had these issues. Last year, I think there was issues in Spain. There was issues in Monza. There was issues in... There always seem to be issues, you know, with not in Spa. There was issues in Silverstone. I was going to say, the dynamic ticket pricing with Silverstone last year was a whole issue for a lot of people. It's crazy. Why do we do this? We're just making people upset and angry when they like don't have to be spending money. They don't have to go to any of these things, and we're seeing that this year because we're a couple of days out from the race, and Miami is begging fans to spend their money because they want to half off. Like, take these tickets, please, but they're still expensive.
And it's just honestly like it's just not. I think long term, no. Unless this racing gets better, I can't see them continuing to grow the sport, because people, it's okay, you might hook people with Drive to Survive, and there are going to be diminishing returns on Drive to Survive. As much as you hook people into the sport, to keep them there, you have to give them a product that they actually want to wake up at 6 a.m. for, and I don't think they're going to do that. And with Miami, I just don't think that they have a circuit, but we'll see. We don't know what we're all saying. This like COTA. The thing is with COTA's a proper racetrack. It's you know, although it's getting more expensive, it is still more affordable than going to Miami or going to Vegas. It's, you know, Texas just seems like an incredible place for people to go to. Not that Miami isn't, but like, just it seems like a great place for people to go. That product is there. it's not no frills, but it's like we're here for the racing. Everyone's got a good view. You know, we're not marketing it as this influencer paradise, right?
Yeah, and there's so much, like, the Circuit of the Americas has done an incredible job recently transforming the fan areas and making those fun and accessible. There's covered places to sit and drink. There's live music everywhere. You know, you walk a little bit farther and you've got merch stands like crazy. There's a huge food hall that's covered now. I mean, you can get a tattoo. I got a tattoo at MotoGP at the track. Like, you can do the craziest stuff there. Yeah, I got a little cactus tattooed on my arm because they have a tattoo shop. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to go do that. Why would I not? You know,
I'm definitely
so
getting a tattoo.
You got to do it. Oh, my God. No, there's so much there that you can do that, like, yes, the ticket prices are rising and they are more expensive. But, you know, you can go on a full, like, suite of carnival rides while you're there. You can ride a roller coaster. It's just... There's all sorts of things that are on top of, you know, you're not just paying for the race. There's a whole experience here within the track that you can't get in the confines of a parking lot in Miami, and that I don't think you'll get within the track limits at Las Vegas. You know, Vegas, you'll be able to walk out, go to a casino, and have a great time. But within, you know, the confines of that event space, it's going to be limited.
It's interesting that the people of Vegas are already complaining about the works that's having to be done to get the city ready for it, which sounds like the same grumblings we had about Miami last year. So I'm so interested to see how Vegas is going to turn out. I am curious. Let's just say that. I was going to say, I feel like they just started building their, like, big buildings and stuff and the structures that they need to have, which, I mean, it's better than now than never, I guess, but dang. Yeah. Like, that's 6 months, right? We only got 6 months left until Vegas. So... It's not a long time. It's not a long time. I'm so curious. I can't wait to see it. The same way I couldn't wait to see Miami, and then we saw Miami, and I was like, oh, this doesn't look great. So we'll see. But I hope it's good for, you know, I do hope it's good, and I do hope it's a great event for everyone there, and. Let's see. But look, Miami Grand Prix coming up. How have you found this season? I guess. I
don't. It's been a weird one. It has not been compelling as much as I think a lot of people would have liked. But that's just, I don't know. I'm not a big Red Bull person. Unfortunately for me, I'm not happy when Red Bull wins all the time, but, you know, that's fine. I wish we had...
That's fine!
Yeah. I wish we had a little more, like... I wish we had more competition going on. I hope we can see things start to turn around. Baku looked promising, at least from the perspective that Sergio Perez might be challenging Max Verstappen for a championship. And in the sense that, like, Max seems like he's getting really flustered, which is always, like, the mental aspect always kind of comes into play when you're going somewhere. So, like, maybe we can see some drama start to come up. But, like, for the love of God, this season has kind of... It's been chaos in the sense of, like, no one knows how to implement rules, but not, like, the on-track stuff, which I think is... It's a little bit of a downer.
Yeah, I mean, it's not been great, but look, a lot of people are saying that last season we were kind of saying the same things, and, you know, it's because of the tracks that we're going to, and, you know, Miami, again, probably not going to be super high on the overtakes. Austria can be somewhat of a, I mean, up until... Well, we've got Monaco coming up as well, which isn't going to be great at the end of the month. We've got, what else have we got? Let me go on my calendar because I like to come with facts. So we have got, after this week, we've got Imola. as well. I should have asked you. Of course, you know. So yeah, we've got Imola and then we've got Monaco. So we've got 3 tracks now which aren't famed for their ability to offer good racing, and I think we had that last season as well. So I mean, hopefully after this period, you know, it will pick up with, you know, proper racing tracks. We've got Silverstone, Austria, Canada as well, although it is a street circuit. You know, it is a popular circuit. One. Yeah, exactly. So it's a good one. It's a good one. And Hungary always seems to serve up some good fare as well. So let's see how that goes. But I guess with the Miami, we can't talk about Miami and not talk about the home driver, Logan Sargeant.
The Florida man himself.
The Florida man himself. How, in your eyes and in everyone's eyes, has he been making America proud? How have you found his first season so far?
I think he's doing great. I don't think he's being marketed as well as he probably could be. I feel like it was a bigger deal when Alexander Rossi entered in 2015 with Marussia for like a hot second. Sorry, with Manor. Literally for like 5 races. So I feel like we haven't seen quite as much buildup with Logan Sargeant, which I think is unfortunate. He did have, like, I think it was GQ this week that there's, like, a bunch of stuff now coming out. But I think he's doing great. I didn't really know what to expect. I don't quite follow the feeder series for Formula One as much as I would like to, but I knew he was doing well. I knew he was doing all right. And I knew that he wasn't totally just, like, buying his way into F1. Like, he had skills to back up what, you know, the benefits he was likely going to be bringing to the team. So it's been great to see how he's adapted. I actually had, I think, higher hopes for Nick De Vries just because De Vries has a championship in Formula E. But I think my rookie of the year is now going more to Logan Sargeant, who seems to have it a little bit more together. He's been putting in like quiet, good performances and has absolutely like outshone Nicholas Latifi in that same seat, which is that's good. That's all you really want to do.
Yes, 100%. And look, he really unfortunate for him to go into the wall in Baku last week because he was doing so well, and I think he would have probably made it out of that session if he'd carried on going, you know, at a good pace. But no, he's quietly doing a good job. I think everyone at Williams is quietly doing a good job. I think obviously Alex Albon is doing a fantastic job. But he's got a lot more experience. And I think for a rookie, for Logan Sargeant to be kind of pushing Alex in qualifying and not be that far away from him, although it's so tight at that bottom end that, you know, that can be the difference between making it out of the session or not. I do think, I think he's done a really good job. He's definitely surpassed the expectations that I had for him. You know, I think although he did make it through, you know, with the correct amount of license points, and he was good in F2. He wasn't, you know, I think he finished 5th or 6th in the standings in the end. So you never really know, like, okay, truly, how is that going to relate? But, you know, these are the same things that people were saying about Zhou.
Yeah.
Although, you know, he did finish higher in the standings, people are saying the same things about Zhou. Did he deserve his seat or not? And, you know, he's going on to have what looks like a pretty stable career, matching and beating Valtteri Bottas at the moment. So, I think Logan, if he can carry on in this way, I think there's no reason for Williams to kind of think about replacing him, and he can grow and grow within the team and take it from there. So, no, I'm happy for him. I am happy for him.
I hope he gets points this weekend.
He gets a point this weekend.
I want to see him celebrate like he's just won a race because he got a point at home. Yeah,
that would be awesome. That would be incredible. I think the scenes, if that happened, would be incredible.
The parties afterwards.
Yeah, right? The party is like 20 miles away from the circuit will be incredible. But no, for sure. So I guess is that your big prediction? What's your big prediction or I guess, yeah, you've already said Logan. I guess outside of Logan, what would you, if you could script the Miami Grand Prix, what would you like to see happen at the Miami Grand Prix?
I would love somehow for there to be a little bit more of an even playing field between those top 3 teams so we can see some scrapping between Red Bull and Mercedes and Ferrari. At the very least, I just want to see drama from Checo and Max. I just want to see the two of them kind of tear each other apart this season. They got so close last year in Brazil. The sass between the two of them was just top notch. And I think
yes.
like if I could just get more of that, the more of the infighting and more, especially more with Max being like, I don't know what's going on in his little brain these days, but he does not seem very happy. And it's kind of coming out and impacting his performance and his relationships with everyone else on the grid. And I think like just seeing that develop is going to be like, that's all I want. Like it's going to be a storyline then for the rest of the season if we can keep seeing that happen. And I would love it. I live for the drama. I live for the pettiness. I live for him calling George a princess. Like it's great.
Look, I said it before that F1 needs people like Max, and as much as I don't agree with it, and I don't agree with him, I don't really agree with his fans in our comments every 2 seconds, demanding attention. But what I will say is, F1 needs characters. Do I agree with his character? No, but it's good that he has this character, because if he didn't have that character, God, the entertainment that we would have had out of Baku would have been zero. And exactly. I genuinely don't know what we would have spoken about if it wasn't for Max. So long may it continue. And I think for sure it would be awesome to see some real close wheel-to-wheel racing between Checo and Max. Let's gloves off. Let's have an inter-Red Bull fight, and let's see how close they can get to each other. Let's see how much they'll be allowed to race. I hope they will be. Christian Horner says they should be allowed to race. So let's see how that goes. I would love that personally. Yeah,
I was going to say, like, there's no, not that there's no value in Max getting another championship, but there's no, I think, novelty around that. Whereas Checo would be the first ever Mexican champion. That would be cool. That would be something for Red Bull to have in their little record books. So that would be neat.
It would be neat. I don't know how much Christian Horner wants to make Max unhappy with that, but I don't know how much is going to happen, but no, for sure, it would be dope. It would be dope. And speaking of dope, we'll be back just after these messages. Yay! Right, so remember, if you want an ad-free stream, you can subscribe to the Patreon. Links below. Exclusive merch, ad-free stream, all of that. Elizabeth.
Yes.
You are the author of a book detailing the story of one of the craziest stories in F1, which is the Haas Rich Energy saga, and the story of William's story, and his masterful plan to sponsor the Haas F1 team as their title sponsor, and how it all basically went down in flames afterwards. I guess from your point of view, what drew you and your co-author Alanis King to this story and to write this book, and how did it all come about?
So Alanis and I, at the time that Rich Energy was announced, we were both staff writers at Jalopnik. And so we were both pretty much on the motorsport beat. And as the 2019 season was kicking off, I realized, and the two of us were noticing that motorsport.com and Autosport was really covering hard a sponsor for Haas. we thought that was just weird
Yeah.
because most of these publications don't really cover sponsorships unless there's something notable about them. And this was just like something no one had ever heard of. Rich Energy, a British energy drink startup company that you couldn't find in the stores, that, quick research would tell you had $770 in the bank. Something like the craziest looking CEO I've ever seen with his Harley Davidson beard and his ZZ Top hair. There was just so much going on and we were like, why are they covering this? Like, what is this? Is there something we're missing? And so we started to kind of deep dive into it and then pitched our editor like, hey, let's talk about this. No one knows what this is. No one's been able to find it in stores. They don't appear to have money. Their CEO is a little bombastic on Twitter sometimes, a little loose with the tweets. Likes to say things. So, and we were like, he was saying so much stuff in the press interviews of like the people who doubt us are like, the moon landing doubters. So we were just like, what is this? Let's get to the bottom of this. No one knows what it is. There are tons of Reddit threads and Autosport forum threads that are like, hey, what is Rich Energy? And we first covered it then. Our first story published in, I believe it was April 2019. And then things progressively fell apart.
Yeah.
William Story got upset. He made a lot of tweets. He got sued by Red Bull. He got sued by a company called White Bikes for stealing his logo. It was just chaos. And then he tweeted his cancellation of the Haas deal. Thanks to, it was like the PC attitudes of Formula One and the terrible performance of Haas. And like, I've never personally thought that Formula One was very politically correct. It's a lot of rich white dudes. So I don't know what he was talking about. But we had a publisher or a literary agent reach out to us. I was taking a step back from Jalopnik full-time writing to focus on grad school. And this guy reached out my last day and he was like, I just watched Drive to Survive, the second season. This is crazy. I wanted to know more about the sponsor and your story popped up. Like, do you want to do a book length deep dive investigation? And the answer was yes. I'm going to step back from my full-time job to focus on grad school and also now take on like another full-time job project. So we started diving into it from there, and then our agent ghosted us after we signed some of our first papers and some of our documents. And then he reached out and was like, actually, I don't think I can promote this book. So bye. So we found a different publisher in McFarland who were wonderful to work with. Elandis and I are like, we're not going to wait around. We didn't wait to hear back from the agent before we started writing the book. We were like, the only thing we needed after that point was to reach out for quotes. All of the research was done. All of the fact checking, like, that was getting done. We wanted to have that book deal signed and ready to roll before we started to reach out to people so that it would give them the legitimacy and the pressure to respond to us. Well, we didn't get that until we signed with McFarland. And at that point, it was a breeze, getting everything else sorted out. But what a crazy story. Like, every time I found out something, I'd be like on the phone to Alanis, like, you're not going to believe what I just heard. And she was like, that's awesome, because I was about to call you because you're not going to believe what I just heard. Like, the story is crazier than even what you saw transpire during the season. So, like, definitely go buy the book. We get into so much. There's so many of the little details, like William Story representing himself in a lawsuit against Red Bull. He didn't have a lawyer. He just thought he could take on Red Bull solo. Just like the tidbits in there are so funny. Just a wild, like, could you imagine? No one could have thought this would happen in this social media era today, and it did. No and way. We all had to see it.
I mean, it's one of those, I always say it's one of the last true cowboy stories that I think you will get from F1. You look at F1 now, the way social media is, the way F1 is run, regulated, the amount of eyes on it now, like, for this guy. Let me tell you now, I live in the UK. I'd never seen a rich energy drink in my life, ever. I was like, honest to God, I thought rich energy was like an erectile dysfunction supplement. Like, I was like, what is this? What is rich energy? I had to look it up. I was like, oh, it's an energy drink. I had no fucking clue. And then you see William's story with his beard, and he's just there, and he just always looked so smug and happy to be there. And I remember every single picture of him. He was just so smug and happy to be. And I was like, who is this guy? Why have Haas given him the keys to the castle? How the fuck? Like, I just don't. And then when it all went to shit, I was like, you just couldn't keep your eyes off it. So to have a book that tells everything, I think is incredible, and we'll leave a link in the description. Guys, go out and get it. It's incredible, an amazing story, and I think you'll like it. Elizabeth, we have come to the end of this completely fresh first time chat. Thank you so much for coming on. And I think, like I was saying on the other recordings, you were the first person to ever put Quickstop F1 in a podcast you need to listen to list, which was incredible for us. That at the time we'd never kind of had that kind of recognition from a publication. So from the bottom of mine and Tandy's heart, thank you so much for that, and for the support, and even for coming on today. It's really appreciated. You can have another round of applause. Aww. Yay.
Thank you. Yeah, I love what y'all are doing. Like, I'm happy. I'm so stoked to be here. I'm glad you reached out. I'm glad I could help whatever way I could.
I think it's really important for all small content creators. You never know who's watching. You never know who's looking at your stuff. So just keep making it, and you never know where that will take you. We're gonna see each other in Austin, right?
We are. We're gonna have a great time. I'll give you the full tour. I'll show you everything you need to know. We will eat so much barbecue. It's gonna be delightful. We'll get our tattoos at Coda.
Oh, yes! I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. I'm really excited to go. Like I said, it's going to be my first time in America, let alone my first time. It's my first time in America, first time at Grand Prix, first time for everything.
You're just checking off the list. The bucket list is getting shorter. That's impressive. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be so fun. I'm gonna be like a absolute rabbit in headlights. I can't wait. But no, where can people find you online?
Everything you can find on Twitter is at Eliz_Blackstock, and then if Twitter dies, I have Instagram at ElizABlackstock. I tried to get those both the same, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll leave links to both below, and there'll be a rotating thing under your thing anyway, so people will be able to see that on YouTube. Thank you guys for watching. This is the Miami GP preview. We'll be back after the qualifying session for Miami. So for once, I'll be the one recording at a ridiculous hour of the night. I'm sure Mario and Chris cannot wait for that. If you've watched this far, make sure to give us a like and subscribe, and make sure, if you're listening on Spotify, give us a 5-star review. If you're on Apple, give us an Apple Podcast review. And if you're on an ad-free stream, we've got the Patreon for you, which has loads of merch and exclusive stuff there. And remember, we have a live show. Still some tickets left for the live show. So link below if you want to come and see us. Brazil, we're going to be running mad promo next week to fill the last few seats. I can't wait to do it. And then we'd have had our largest ever attendance at a live show. And I think that is dope. So thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. One more time. Here's some more applause. Applause for you. Applause for you. Yay, yay, yay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And remember, guys, no matter what life throws at you, keep it on the black stuff. Until next time, take care. Look, mate, if you've got this far, clearly you like what we do. So here's a link to subscribe to the Quickstop F1 family. Give that a click. And here's another link to some more cool on our channel. Sorry, cool stuff. And remember, no matter what happens, keep it on the black stuff. Click the stuff. Click the links. Click the links. Click the links. There. They're there.